Good morning. Today we're going to finish filling out your graphic organizer. We're going to look at how to create lines that are perpendicular to one another. Yesterday we focused on lines that were parallel, and we knew that we had to get our answer in slope-intercept form, and that our line had to pass through a certain point that they provided to us. In this case, our point is 6, 0. Now, they already provide us with a line that we can find here, and that line is already on the graph. Our line is going to end up being perpendicular to their line, and will also pass through the point 6, 0. To begin, let's start by graphing their line. Okay, let's graph the line that is already there, the one that gives us some information to build our line. Okay, we begin by graphing the y-intercept. This line happens to cross at positive 2. So over on my graph, I'm going to count up from the origin here. I'm going to count up 1, 2, and I'm going to make a dot right there. That becomes my new starting point. From there, I know that I have an original slope and I have an opposite slope. Their original slope is -3. That, however, is only one number. And remember, a slope needs a rise and a run. One of our keys to mastering this is to remember that every whole number is over 1. So if I need a top and a bottom number to graph slope, I can put my whole number over 1, which means their original slope is -3 over 1. I will go down 3 and to the right 1 to graph this line. To go in the opposite direction, I'm going to flip everything to its opposite. I'm going to flip my -3 to a +3 and my 1 to a -1. Meaning to go in the other direction to graph, I'll go up 3, but to the left 1. Going back to my graph, I'm going to start counting, and I'm going to count from my starting point. I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. Now I need to make a dot right there. I'm going to keep counting like that, down 3 and over 1, down 3 and over 1. Not bad. I'm going to start going in the other direction now. My opposite slope says that now I'm going to go up 3 and to the left 1, and that will help build my line in the opposite direction. So I'm going to count up from my original starting point, 1, 2, 3, and to the left 1. I need to make a dot right there and then continue. It's hard to make dots with this stylus. Up 1, 2, 3, and to the left 1. So now I just need to connect my lines as best I can and make a line that represents their equation. Now the other piece to this is that they've told me that they want my line to go through a particular dot. They want my line to go through 6, 0. Now remember that your coordinate pairs, the first number tells you left or right. Sorry about that bad arrow. And the second number tells you whether to go or how far to go up or down. So I'm going to begin at the origin, which is what I do for coordinate pairs, and I'm going to go over to +6, and I'm going to go up or down 0. That means I'm going to stay right here on the origin. So I need to make a dot there. Okay. And that dot has to be on my line in order for my line to meet the qualifications they've given me. My line also has to be perpendicular, remember, to theirs. That means that when my line crosses their line, it should make a 90-degree angle. Now ours might not look perfect because we're making homemade lines, but it should look pretty much like a 90-degree angle. Part of what I have to do is decide how I'm going to develop a slope. If you remember from our work earlier and in your flip book, parallel lines meet two qualifications. Their slopes are opposite signs and their slopes are reciprocals. That means that I need to take the slope of their line, the one they've provided to me, -3/1, and I need to come up with the opposite reciprocal of that slope. If I take the opposite sign, you'll see theirs is a negative. That means that my slope is going to be positive. So I guess I really don't need to write anything. There's no symbol for positive. And I need to take the reciprocal of 3/1, which is 1/3. We'll do a double check and we'll say, okay, their slope is negative and mine is positive, so I've met the opposite signs qualification. Their slope is 3/1 and mine is 1/3, so I've met the reciprocal qualification. The slope I'm going to use for my line is 1/3. Now I go back to my point slope formula. Whoops, excuse me. Made a mistake there. Y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1. I am going to substitute in the items that I know. I know that my slope is going to be 1/3. It's not the same as their slope anymore, but it's the opposite reciprocal. Over here, I've got y minus my y coordinate, which is way up here, and it's 0. And I've got my parentheses x minus my x coordinate, which is way back up here, and it's 6. I have to distribute first, so I have to take my 1/3, multiply it times x, multiply it times -6. 1/3 times x is pretty easy, 1/3 x. If you are looking for help multiplying fractions, let's move up here, and we'll do 1/3 times -6/1. Remember to double check. If this is a symbol that's minus, it actually morphs into a negative for the 6. 1 times -6 is -6. 3 times 1 is 3. -6 divided by 3 is -2. So 1/3 x minus 2. I really don't have to do anything to this -0 because I can add 0 to both sides, which is kind of silly because it wouldn't really do anything. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark this sort of canceled right off the bat and rewrite my final equation, y equals 1/3 x minus 2. Now there's the math portion. I'm going to double check on my graph over here, and I'm going to graph my line in blue. Or actually, I'll probably use green because I want to see if it goes through that blue dot. I'm going to begin with my y-intercept, which is -2. I'm going to count down from the origin and make a dot on the y-axis at -2. From there, my slope tells me that I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. We better make our original and opposite here. My original slope says I'm going to go +1 and +3, which means up 1 and to the right 3, my opposite slope is going to take me down 1, right? We'll go negative direction and negative direction. The opposite of positive 1/3 is negative 1 over negative 3. So let's go up 1 and over 3 and make a dot right here. And then we'll go up 1 and over 3, and we've done it. We've hit this particular dot. I'm going to go back to my starting place. I'm going to go down 1 and to the left 3. Go one more, down 1 and to the left 3. I connect those. And although it's not perfect, it does pretty much look like they are a perpendicular set of lines. At this point, if you feel confident to work on both developing parallel and perpendicular lines, you can pause the video and you can go to Schoology, find your worksheet, and begin that work in your notebook. On the other hand, if you would like to record the other perpendicular example in your Foldable, I'm going to do that right now. So move to the other side. All right, we're going to go a little more quickly with this one since we kind of know what we're doing. Let's identify the information we need. We know that we have a point that we need to have our line go directly through, and that point is at negative 10, 2. We also know that we have got to make our line perpendicular to their line, and we can identify that the slope of their line, the slope of their line is negative 5. We'll need all those pieces of information, but let's begin by graphing their line. And again, we'll graph it, or I will graph it in black. I'm going to begin at my y-intercept of 8. I'm going to count up to 8, and I'm going to make a dot on the y-axis. Then I'm going to use their slope. I'm going to sort of make a little arrow over here. Their slope is negative 5. Remember that we have to create that denominator of 1 when we have a whole number, which means their original slope is negative 5 over 1. So that means we will go down 5 and to the right 1 for our original. Then in our opposite slope, we're going to go positive 5 over negative 1, so we'll go up 5 and to the left 1. Starting at this dot, it doesn't look like I can even use the opposite slope because I can't go up 5, so it looks like I'm going to have to work completely with the original. And from this dot, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Looks like that's about all I can do. I'm going to make the straightest line I can. Ooh, that was terrible. I should probably try that one more time. Well, there it is. And now I'm going to begin working on figuring out what I need for my work over here. I know I'm going to be using point slope form because I've got a point and eventually I'll have a slope. I'm going to examine their slope for a second. Their slope is negative 5 over 1. I know that my slope has to meet two qualifications. It has to be the odd sign. Okay, we're going to abbreviate this time. And it has to be the reciprocal, which I'm going to abbreviate as the flipped version. If their slope is negative 5 over 1, mine is going to have to be positive, right? And if they have the number 5 over the number 1, I'm going to have the number 1 over the number 5. My slope is the opposite sign. Theirs is negative and mine is positive. And my slope is the reciprocal or the flipped version of theirs. They have 5 over 1. I have 1 over 5. I'm going to go to my point slope form. Just write the formula so that I can go through and replace exactly what I need to replace. I know that I'm going to have to take my y coordinate and put it where the y sub 1 is, my x coordinate, put it where x sub 1 is, and the slope that I've developed and put it where the m is. So I'm going to go through and do some of that substituting. Now when I get to this point, I notice that my x coordinate is a negative 10. So I'm going to take that extra negative and go ahead and just make that plus 10. If I were to put minus negative 10, I would have to change it into plus 10 because minus a negative is the same as plus. The next thing I'm going to do is begin to distribute. I've got to multiply 1/5 times x and 1/5 times 10. 1/5 times x is quite easy. 1/5 times x is 1/5 x. If you don't know 1/5 times 10, let's do a little fraction math over here. It's all positive numbers, so it's pretty easy. 1/5 times 10 over 1, we multiply the numerators. 1 times 10 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. It's a positive 2, so when I go back over here, I'm going to rewrite that as plus 2. The last thing I need to do is add 2 to both sides so that I can completely isolate my y. And I've got an equation of y equals 1/5 x plus 4. I'm going to take my slope, and I know that I'm going to have to graph in a minute, so I'm just going to go ahead and identify my original slope, which is positive 1 over positive 5, meaning I would go up and to the right, and my opposite slope, which is negative 1 over negative 5, which means I would go down and to the left. I noticed we did not put, or I forgot to put, the dot onto the graph that they're asking us to intersect with. The whole point of this was to make a perpendicular line, a line perpendicular to the line that's black right now, and have it go through the point at negative 10, 2. So going back to my graph, I'm going to go to my origin and I'm going to count over to negative 10 and up 2 and make a dot right there. If we did our math correctly, our line should look fairly perpendicular. It's hard to be exact. And it should go through that blue dot. I'm going to begin by making a dot at my positive 4, which is my y-intercept, counting up from the origin in the positive direction. And I'm going to go in my original slope direction, right, up and to the right. I'm going to go up 1 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, make a dot right here. It looks great, but it's not headed in the direction of my blue dot, and I really want to see if our line will intersect with the blue dot. So I'm going to move over and start using my opposite slope, which takes me down 1 and to the left 5. If I go down 1 and to the left 5 from my original starting point, I end up here. And then from that dot, if I start here now, and I go down 1 into the left 5, we've managed to hit the blue dot. If I connect all those, they do look like they're perpendicular, like they make a 90-degree angle, and I've crossed the dot, so we have successfully done exactly what they've asked. At this point, you should go to your homework page that you've set up and begin working on the worksheet.